Hello, my name is Ted Allen. I'm the Chief Content Officer for the Institute for Cybersecurity and Digital Trust. It's my pleasure to provide a brief introduction to the Institute for Cyber Day. And in this introduction, my plan is to talk first about who we are, and you'll see that there's a big change happening right now that you might understand. What the mission that was laid out by our leadership, which has included Helen Patton and Hesham El Gamal, the curriculum progress that has been made, which is pretty impressive, under the leadership of Elam Ekici. We'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about the relationship of our activity with the bigger picture in Ohio and the Ohio Cyber Range Institute, led by the University of Cincinnati. We'll talk a little bit about the Hardware Center, two centers really that already are here at Ohio State, and the OSIM, the Ohio Cyber Initiative for Manufacturing and Mobility, which is an exciting initiative that's occurring now. And finally, we'll talk briefly about some thoughts about how you, as participants in Ohio Cyber Day and in the broader community, or particularly at staff at the Ohio State University, could get involved. We really do want involvement. I'm sure that's true, whoever is going to be the leader of the Institute. The staff is critical to our success, and we know that. So who has been associated? Well, we're doing a national director search ongoing, as I understand it. Formerly, the faculty director was Hesham El Gamal. We now are blessed with Julia Armstrong, who is filling in for the great Helen Patton, who was our co-director before. And then I mentioned Ayla Makichi is the curriculum director. Then there's a large number of other people that are critical to what we're doing. I mentioned how there are two cybersecurity centers here at Ohio State University relating to hardware. Professor Khalil Walid is leading both. I myself am an important person in terms of this Ohio Cyber Institute for Manufacturing and Mobility and interacting with the Cyber Range. Of course, the chair, Anish Arora from CSE, is a critical member of the team, and General Mark Bartman, formerly of the Adjutant General for the state of Ohio, has really been critical to the project process. Kadir Ahmed from the Center for Automotive Research and Mechanical Engineering has been leading the involvement for mobility. Vimal Buck from Center for Design and Manufacturing Excellence has been leading the manufacturing part of OSIM. And Helen Patton, even though she is no longer the co-director, she still is involved, and we're very lucky to have that. And then I'll just mention two other people. There are many other people I could mention, but I want to keep this brief. Professor Ziquan Lin of Computer Science Engineering is one of the most knowledgeable people at Ohio State in terms of the core fundamentals of vulnerabilities and what is happening nationally in research. So we're lucky to have him on the team. And then Professor Dwayne Wagner from the psychology department. He has been critical in our planned progress towards addressing not just sort of what you might call core cybersecurity issues, but also addressing digital trust issues and misinformation. The only other person I'll just mention, all these other people are still very important to me. David Landsbergen, I'll mention him later because he is leading an exciting new master's certificate with the Glenn School. So basically, there's a deep debt that we all have for the contributions from the OSU staff. Some of the people I'm not mentioning, like John McCarty or Steve Romig or Bob Pardee. I mean, my gosh, I should mention each one. And of course, Reg Jackson, who's critical to this Cyber Day. And all of those people have been critical, both not just for our little institute, but for the broader picture of cybersecurity in Ohio, and the exciting things that are happening at the state level. So, what is the mission? Well, as Hesham and Helen laid out last year, we're trying to foster collaboration among researchers from multiple academic disciplines to collaboratively develop solutions to complex cybersecurity and digital trust issues. We're trying to prepare the next generation of scholars and leaders to develop robust and effective cyber trust solutions. And we're trying to partner with other educational institutions, government, military, industry, to identify emerging threats and issues and address those needs through education and collaboration. Being a little bit more specific about the topics that are on top of mind of our broader group, we're trying to support hardware cybersecurity. As I mentioned, there are two highly successful centers for hardware cybersecurity at Ohio State University. We're also doing this manufacturing mobility initiative, which involves connecting several buildings. We'll talk more about that. And we're trying to support analytics. That's a major focus for the university, but it's also an important part of cybersecurity. And then the last thing I'll mention has to do with this exciting new development relating to supporting interdisciplinary research and on trust and information systems and the effects of training and dynamics on cybersecurity, including on getting the staff and faculty to self-train more. So there's been real progress, and Ayla Makichi and Hesham were amazingly efficient at getting these two tracks in the master's program on the books. It's going right now. You can get a master's at the Ohio State University following either offense and defense or design and implementation. And these are a pick list of courses that are available right now. And there are students signed up, and this is really happening. The analytics one is one that is under development, and I'm working on it myself, along with many other stakeholders, most notably Chair Anish Arora. And then a new exciting development is participation, as I mentioned earlier, from Professor Landsbergen from the Glenn College. There's going to be this new track, it looks like, which will feature courses on policy and from the Glenn School and law from the Moritz Law School. And so that's going to be a critical addition to the master's program, and begin and help with the vision for potentially an undergraduate program that is in a lot of people's minds. So I mentioned earlier that we are a part of the bigger state picture. Another key part of this big state picture is the Ohio Cyber Range and Institute. So the Ohio Cyber Range Institute oversees the Ohio Cyber Range. What is the Ohio Cyber Range? Well, it's an evolving set of teaching resources and events across the state of Ohio. It's mostly paid for by the Ohio Department of Higher Education, which is also a key supporter of a lot of the work that we're doing here at Ohio State. And University of Cincinnati leads, and they've been a great partner, I feel. And they have very strong ties with the Department of Labor, and they have this impressive boot camp that they franchised. So you might, if you're mid-career and you're like, well, I'm not earning enough, I'm not satisfied, I want to become a cybersecurity professional, there's even an Ohio State version of the boot camp, but we took the materials from the University of Cincinnati with gratitude, and that was their plan. And they have very strong ties with the National Security Agency through their Richard, who's the leader of the OCRI. And so we are currently one of 13 regional planning centers in the OCRI. You can see where we are. And then you can, we're focused under the leadership of Hashem originally and Helen, but now most recently Kadir and Vimal, to focus our contributions on the range so far relating to manufacturing and mobility. And hopefully very soon you'll see some of the modules if you go to the range site and get a login, and then you can do some training, which is in a way, quote, hands-on, because you can literally attack and defend virtual machines in the range cloud. So OSU's greatest cybersecurity experts are to be better utilized through this. That's one of the great visions of this, is that training that we do here through the range can not only benefit the students here, which are critical, but also can be projected through K through 12 and broadly across the state. And that gives you a chance, if you're writing an NSF proposal or some other DHS proposal, to advertise the truth, which is that if you do it right, you really can reach tens of thousands of people, and maybe even more, and have a real impact. So I mentioned earlier that there's these two hardware centers, one for enabling cyber defense in analog and mixed signal domain, and also the National Microelectronics Security Training Center. So these are obviously related, but they're actually separate centers. They started with roughly $9 million in funding, and there's a teaming agreement with the University of Florida. Professor Walid Khalil launched the two centers, sponsored with Air Force money, and also money from Nimbus Inc., a developer and cloud communities. So that's a big success for the university, and a key member of our team, and somebody that we're hoping that with our diverse talents may be able to energize further his great success. Or their great success, because there's other scores. And then the one that I'm more involved in is this Ohio Cyber Security Initiative for Manufacturing and Mobility. This jumble of things is somewhat relevant to the actual jumble of things that we are involved with. We, just like Ohio State runs over 1,000 buildings, which pipe information centrally, we are also piping information to a central database that is called ThingWorks, and the information is coming from the Center for Automotive Research, although that has been limited so far, but some information from the Center for Design and Manufacturing Excellence, and from Baker Systems, which is the Industrial and Systems Engineering Department, which has significant manufacturing capabilities in the basement. We're excited to try to integrate the wealth of data that is available through an NSF grant called Powwow that Chair Anish Arora is leading. And so all this information can go to ThingWorks, and then it can be stored, and then access can be managed and projected throughout the state and beyond. So this is a campus network, and the key professors involved are Kadir Ahmed and Anish Arora, myself, Vimal, and General Barton. So that, just to finish up, where do you fit into this picture? Well, that's the thing about Ohio State is, sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and the left hand very often doesn't have any idea what the right hand is doing. So if you're involved with digital trust, or you want to be, if you're involved with cybersecurity and you want to help project research or be a part of our team, really, please let me know. Alan.515 is my connection. And, Elam and Julia and all the rest of the people, really, we have group meetings every week. And then we can include you as desired. So collaboration is really welcome. Hashem El Gamal, basically said those of us working in the Trust Institute need to work hard to be trustworthy ourselves.